Daily Sean, welcome back, tribe. Fielding a question from the tribe related to skincare, hand care, whether or not what do I do this day and age in this particular condition of our society, and what healthcare workers, well, no, not healthcare workers, anyone is going through with the encouragement of frequent hand washing. The remainder of the non-healthcare related world is starting to notice that hand care, skin care actually is quite important. If you wash your hands as much as healthcare workers do, you start to realize that your hands start to get really dry, they start to crack, they start to split. And then when you have an open crack, split, or wound anywhere on your hands, and you continue to use the hand sanitizer, cleaning with soap and water, that crack, that wound can actually get worse. It can get irritated, and then if it's an open wound and you try and use that alcohol-based hand sanitizer, yeah, that stings like a mofo. So someone in the tribe asked me what I do in order to maintain the health of my digits. Now I have no secrets. I simply have things that I know have worked for me and my hands. I am by no means someone that does the spa treatments or the I'm super basic. But the things that I've done or that I've figured out over the years seems to work. It's not perfect. There are still times when I'm using the hand sanitizer, washing my hands a lot, like this day and age, or certain times of the year. I live in the Northeast, so during the winter months and the colder months, it's even more dry out, and my hands, I have to pay particular attention to keeping my hands as healthy and my skin as healthy as possible. Okay. So let's break it down into two segments. First segment is preventative. Second phase is going to be treatment. So preventative are the things that I do every day to try and maintain the integrity of my hands and the skin on my hands. Duh. The first thing that makes no sense whatsoever when I was first told this tip was that when you wash your hands, make sure that your hands are wet before you apply whatever soap cleaning product that you're going to use. What are you talking about? I was told this when I was in school for nursing school. It was an occupational therapist that actually recommended it because they do a lot of they treat a lot of patients post-surgical cases who have hand surgeries, broken fingers, you know, the rods that go down into the digits, and any kind of work-related injuries. They have to do the rehabilitation for someone who has to do hand strengthening and skin care. They do whirlpool treatments. And at first I was like, what in the world does an occupational therapist know that they're going to try and teach me? Well, that's not cocky at all. You want to make sure that you moisten your hands well. Don't just spit your hands underneath the running water and then apply the soap. You want to make sure that you put your hands under the sink. Make sure that you get water throughout your hands, on the top, on the bottom, before you apply the soap. I swear to God it works. I don't know the whole science behind it, but I've always done it, and it seems to made a difference for me. That's number one. The second thing you can do, and this is counterintuitive, and you can do this is mostly for a tip for those of us who work in the hospital. When you're washing your hands, every so often, if you're working a 12-hour shift, every couple hours, there are corporate approved hand moisturizers. They usually come in a pump. At least they did where I've worked over the years. They come in a big, huge vat. It's a pump, and it's hand moisturizer. The moisturizer is horrible. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't really help much. It might moisturize your hands for a hot second, but it really doesn't help the way that you want it to. What it's really good at, though, is utilizing the moisturizer while you're washing your hands with soap and water. Another crazy thing, but I promise it works. It does degrade and it does diminish the cleaning power of the soap, but you're doing it to try and moisturize your hands. So you're going to use the water first. You're going to put a good amount of soap, or the water first. Next thing would be a good amount of moisturizer. Get the moisturizer all on your hand, and then you're going to use the soap, and then you're going to clean your hand like you normally would. You want to do that every so often. There's no science behind it. I got no specific recommendations. It should be anytime you think of it, anytime you feel your hands are starting to get irritated in some way. I do it every couple hours, or I do it when I know I've been washing my hands non-stop when I'm walking in and out of rooms. So, like I said, random every couple hours. I promise. It works. It's crazy. It works. Third thing you want to do is you should be moisturizing your hands overnight. However it is you want to. I also thought this was stupid crazy and then I wasn't going to do it. And now, a year or two later, I can tell the difference when I don't do it. There are, and I'm talking about a petroleum-based moisturizer, the kind of petroleum-based healing creams that you can buy out there wherever you shop, online, in person, doesn't matter. I use the Aquaphor Eucerin, and I'll try and leave a link down in the description. This is one of the, hopefully you'll be able to see that with the horrible lighting. It's called Aquaphor Eucerin Cream, and then there's another container like this that I use, that is out on my nightstand. So I use this when I'm literally getting ready to lay down to go to sleep. I put a thin film of this on my hands, and then I go to bed. Yep, my hands are a little tacky, and it probably will leave some residual on anything you touch. That is something that thankfully my wife is accepting of, because the alternative is to put the stuff on your hands and then to wear a pair of gloves to bed. I knew I will always never be able to wear a pair of gloves to bed. That was a tip that came from a friend of mine. I think it might have been when I was constantly getting cracks on the sides of my fingers, or on the curves of my thumb. I was getting them over here. And the best way to describe it is that sometimes my finger would split along the lines of my fingerprint, which was really weird, but it does happen. And I was getting it very often, especially in the colder months where I live. So it was a recommendation that somebody either told me or read it online, and you can use this at night, have it on overnight, and then clean it off in the morning. And to keep it from getting on surfaces, you could wear gloves, but I don't wear the gloves. I don't cake it on. I was caking it on for a while, thinking that more was better, but you only need a very thin layer. It's just barely enough that you can feel it on your hands and your fingers. I found that that's like truly the key to my success, is trying to keep my fingers from splitting. And the last thing I do for preventative measures is to moisturize my hands, moisturize my skin after I shower. That was also the last two tips, the Eucerin cream and moisturizing after you get out of the shower, was a tip that was actually given by my tattoo artist to help healing my tattoos and keep my tattoos healthy and to maintain the color of my tattoos was, instead of buying like that post-tattoo cream that tattoo parlors sell at a very high price, he just said go to Walmart, buy a big old vat of that Aquaphor and put a thin layer on your tattoo as it heals, and it worked beautifully. So that last tip of moisturizing after the shower, I have a pump of moisturizer that I use for my hands and all of my tattoos. Also on the scalp, if we're going to go ahead and be transparent here. It might sound a little less masculine for those of you that are judgy, but I don't really care because it works. Moving right along to now the treatment phase of this vlog. What happens after you get a crack, a split, or something happens to your hands to where they're irritated and now it's causing you problems every time you wash your hands or use the waterless hand sanitizer and it's stinging and you're starting to get the irritation on the knuckles because you've washed your hands so frequently, which we are doing quite a bit these days. One of the things you want to do is make sure that you protect it during the day however you can. If you're a healthcare worker working in the hospital or in that environment, you got to do whatever you can. They make some Tegaderm dressings that you can use that help, but they usually only last a couple times before you have to replace them. There is a thing called liquid skin, and I don't have... Oh, wait. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not. Maybe. So, new skin, and it comes in a bottle and it's a liquid. The downside is that it has acetone in it, so it stings like a mofo when you put it on an open wound. But it creates a barrier between your skin and the environment, so you can wash your hands with soap and water and it protects the open wound. Like I said, the acetone is probably the most negative aspect of it, but it works. I can usually go through a 12-hour shift. I apply it like a brush in the morning before I leave for work, and then I may once in a while have to reapply halfway through the day, but most of the time I don't have to. It leaves this weird film that you can clean off when you get home for the day, and sometimes the film just stays there, which is also okay. There's no harm, and the film will eventually degrade and just fall off. If you have any other tips in regards to protecting a wound while you're at work so you continue to wash your hands in a normal fashion, I'd love to hear it, so please leave it in the comments. The thing about wounds, and that's the first thing. The second thing is the thing about a wound when it starts to heal over and it starts to scab over, don't pick it, don't peel at it, don't try and, mess around with it. Let it flake off on its own. The thing about wound care during your everyday life is that during the day is different from during the night. So I've already told you that you want to put the moisturizer on your hands at night. If the wound is on your hands, you want to keep that wound dry during the day. It helps protect it, it helps create that scab, and that's just all part of the healing process. So just keep it covered and protected so it doesn't get worse. Keep it dry during the day, and then at night when you're at home when you're getting ready to turn in, you want to keep it somewhat soft. That also helps with the overall healing of the wound. These are all my tips. These are not medically proven, evidence-based recommendations. I am no wound care expert, specialist. The hardest part of treating your hands with wounds like that is that you have to be able to you have to keep functioning normally like you would. And that's usually the most difficult part of this. Which leads me to the last thing, is that you want to make sure you keep your fingernails trim. You want to make sure that if you have skin, you have what we call spoon nails, because I have spoon nails. You want to make sure you keep that hardened skin around your nails healthy. If you've ever worked in the OR, you'll if you ever remember working in the OR or doing an OR rotation, you'll notice that when you are washing your hands, scrubbing in, there are actually nail trimmers there for the surgeons and for anyone who's part of the operating room procedure. The fingernail clippers are there for a reason, because you need to keep the tips of your fingers, fingernails, and everything surrounding your fingernail healthy and free from debris. So then any kind of edges that are sharp you need to grind down, you need to cut down. Any kind of edges on your skin that are sharp or can have a chance of getting caught or can peel away on something, you also want to get rid of those. So you want to keep those as manicured as possible. So here I am talking about manis and skin softener. Not something that I thought I would ever do. Brave new world. That's all I got. End of the video. You know what to do. You know how to find me. Daily Sean. I'm out.